Okay, hello, Nadine Madell. What is the angle of the sex work industry you wanted to present going into making a Wicked Eden?
Well, the angle of the sex industry that I really wanted to share was one that I didn't really feel I had seen before. So, like, uh, an authentic voice from those inside, and truly who these people are, and why are they doing? Why do they choose this? And do they choose this? Because I had seen a lot of projects, that really talk about the more negative aspects and like the that some people who don't have maybe the means to go to school, or don't have like the support from family to do something other than sex work. I just felt like that marginalization was just like being just beaten over the head. And um and i and i just i was like, that can't be, like, that cannot be. This this multi-billion industry cannot be made of people who aren't going into it with like a clear, informed um decision, right? Like, I was like, that can't be, that can't be. And so that's really what I wanted to explore, was like, who are the people who are, the leaders in the industry, who are doing this as a calling, or really enjoy their work, um, make this choice to do this work over something else that could be just as equally lucrative. And so that's just a new angle, a more authentic insider's voice, and really truly who these women are, because they create these personas. They create the the women in a Wicked Eden specifically, creating these personas and these larger than life characters. I wanted to know, like, what they drink in a bar, or you know what they do on their off time, because surely they're not wearing latex and leather all the time. And it's true, they're not. So I just wanted to know who they were.
Definitely. I feel I'm curious if you agree with me. Do you think people resist a more sex positive mindset in sort of a knee jerk way, and then sort of repress some repressive cultural beliefs, maybe religious beliefs, sort of reinforce that, and then they find like society will has their back to an extent, at least.
um, in the sense that society has a person's back in like rejecting sex positivity.
Yeah,
Is that?
to an extent. Like, I mean, I said, like, maybe like religious people or whatever will say like, oh yeah, that is bad, but they'll just have that knee jerk fear, I guess,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
of something inside of themselves too, something that they don't want to acknowledge.
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely do think that, you know, I can't speak for society, obviously. Um, but in my experience, yes, yes and no. Like, I feel, I mean, I'm lucky because personally, I I'm fortunate to be and have built a fairly progressive network of people, with the exception of a couple of people that are in my life. Most everybody has has really been excited and curious, and like, because it's different, because um, yeah, because uh, we all grow up, well, North America specifically, it is so patriarchal and it is so puritanical that sex positivity is, I mean, it's it shouldn't be a new thing, but it really truly is. And well, in the masses, in the general masses, I think it really is, because it's easier, right? I mean, it's easy to just to buy into the stereotypes and the gender norms and all of that kind of stuff. It's easy to set up a nuclear life, and it just it's just easier to get through life that way, as you know, a cis white or man or woman.
Right.
And but people are curious because I think, you know, oppression is real. And and even if you're not into kink or whatever, it's just it's another way to just be like, oh, hey, there's a person that like I really connect with. We're totally different. We're from different worlds. Um, but you're cool. Okay, like you're really smart. I feel like we're going there. Hopefully, um, you know, a film like A Wicked Eden, I've been saying this for a really long time, that I feel like it's an impact film. Um, and I feel like it's something, because I haven't seen something like this that is so sex positive and so, you know, authentic to the workers inside the industry, and, you know, that them trying to, you know, broaden people's minds. Um, I feel like it's akin to, you know, Paris is burning in the 80s and what that did with drag culture. Or, you know, there's a lot of there, it's kind of a little bit more obscure documentaries, you know, about the AIDS epidemic and being gay. And like, you know, at the time, those kinds of um, films coming out in the 80s and 90s were just like fear mongering, right? And just like, oh my God, don't talk to a gay man, or somebody has AIDS. Ooh, you're going to catch it. Like, it, but now it's not a death sentence, and now it's not. It doesn't have that mark on it anymore. And so I feel like, you know, A Wicked Eden, and hopefully more films like this that actually give sex workers a voice. You know, the more people get on side of sex positivity and the sex industry for good, you know, the more we can change things.
Cool. And how long did it take to shoot the documentary? Yeah.
Hmm. Um, well, it's a process, you know, as with
Mm.
any doc, and especially breaking into and building the trust in the relationships, because you know this is a community that's notoriously guarded. They've been exploited, and you know they've been exploited by other, you know, mainstream media producers and directors and filmmakers, and so that was really quite an uphill battle. Um, but it almost wasn't, in the sense that, you know, I had pure intents, and these women and these business people, like that's their superpower, is to know people, right? Like that's their superpower. They can read the bullshit. So, you know, I was curious.
Mm.
So it took a while. And then also, you know, I'm in Canada, and a lot of the folks that we wanted to talk to were in the States, kind of sort of scattered around. We had a few people in the UK that we wanted to talk to that we weren't able to get to. So we had 4 official production trips and a 5th, like our initial trip to kind of meet Alex and kind of get a little introduction, I guess, to the dungeon. And kind of we went to AVN and sort of learned a little bit about like how huge this industry is. then we shot 2018. So 2017 was our first trip. For the duration of 2018, we had the 4 trips. And then we had some pickups.
Okay.
So yeah, like about 2. I've been working on it since 2016.
Damn. So I guess a lot of it was building up trust.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's the skill of the documentary filmmaker, right? Is like, I mean, I don't know. I worked in radio and I had done a little bit of journalism, and I love journalism, and I love talking to people, and I love like knowing trying to know who a person is in, a short amount of time, or as quickly as possible. So I think that's the skill of the documentarian, is to be present and to be in a curious headspace where, your subjects and the people that you're working with, your crew included, really trust you, and you kind of all have a good solid core group of ethics and intent for whatever stories and voices you're trying to tell. So yes, building that trust it's quintessential, I think, in a documentary.
Cool. All right. So let's talk about public policy for a second. Why do you think the Stop Enabling Sex Traffickers Act is problematic?
Well, we mention it in the film, and we only briefly touch on it in the film because the SESTA and FOSTA acts were signed into law while we were filming. So it was kind of a new, I mean, obviously it had been ongoing, and it's problematic, and Raven talks about it in the film, and that is that, the Communications Act, and the SESTA FOSTA takes away, like, the owners of websites, Backpage, Clips for Sale, YouTube, Twitter, those company owners are now liable for whatever you put up online or whatever we tweet. And so, like, those big conglomerates were just scared because and shut things down. And in terms of what that did with sex workers who had started to move online, as Alex mentions in A Wicked Eden, started to move online, which was something that was really fascinating to me, in that these folks can make so much money and never leave their house, never take their clothes off, never meet a client in person. And that to me was the ultimate safety, independent, like just autonomy, right? And so when SESTA and FOSTA came in, it meant that those folks who had started to move online for their business then had to move back outside, and that can be very unsafe. Very unsafe. I mean, we've, there's so much murder, and like, I live in Canada, and the missing and murdered Indigenous women is like this horrific injustice that's been going on for decades. Thousands and thousands of women go missing and have gone missing, and it just that not all of the missing and murdered Indigenous women are sex workers, obviously, but that's a way for women to be able to feed their kids sometimes. And with the public policy kind of moving against sex work, well, and it wasn't actually targeting sex work specifically, but it just looped in sex workers into the human trafficking, because that's awful, obviously. that these women then, and women and men, and then had to move outside, and there weren't any other safety measures. So like Backpage, which, yes, awful site, but also good in the sense that it was like a screening site. So there's just a lot of information lost. And yeah, and women had to go back out onto the street, and that's can be very unsafe. So
yeah. Okay. So what do you think is the attraction of the dominatrix figure?
well, power. I mean, power dynamics are incredibly attractive and they are in absolutely every interaction we have in our life. Always. And it's interesting because Mistress Noelle Knight, who works with the Wicked Collective, she's been saying this for years. And she was the first person to say it. And she was like, oh yeah, everything is a power dynamic. And I'm just like, huh, yeah, you're right. Like, you know, every conversation you have with anybody is a dance. And whether or not it's like a, oh, I'm trying to, you know, one up you or whatever, there's always a power dynamic. And that's kind of interesting. Well, to me, it's very interesting. And then with the dominatrix figure, they just like take it to that extreme, which in itself is super fascinating because it's purposeful, and it's thoughtful, and there's like so much expertise that goes into creating the dominatrix figure, because there's psychology, there's business, there's you know, sex appeal, you know, understanding different items of clothing and what they might do to you know, a person, and like psychologically, it's all so fascinating. And to me, the most fascinating side of it is to see that person who they are when they're not wearing the latex and leather, and just like those dynamics is fascinating. It's just fascinating to me.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
I think that there's a curiosity, for sure, and I'm glad that there is, and I hope that people do continue to be curious about that dominating figure. I mean, okay, no, I'm not going to bring it up.
Okay, yeah. Cool. Well, Naddine, thanks for your time. I really enjoyed talking to you today about A Wicked Eden, a documentary
Yes.
that I enjoyed a lot.
Good.
Yeah, of course, for sure. So my last question is, how did it feel to be included in the Whistler Film Festival?
Oh, well, as a Canadian filmmaker, I've been, every little short that I've done or anything that I've been involved in over the past few years, I've wanted to get into Whistler. In my opinion, Whistler is like the Canadian Sundance, and yeah, I was an honor, and it just always seemed like it was this elusive, you know, really highly respected film festival, and I didn't know if I'd ever get in. so to have them screen A Wicked Eden, and to just be such a champion for it, I was like, oh, okay, great. There's some progressiveness in Canada. I wasn't sure if there would be,
but it
much.
all worked out.
It did, yeah.
Okay.
And it was great. It was fun. We had you know, the whole crew showed up. We had a ton of amazing talent. Like I think we had 5 pro doms from Seattle and Portland, 3 from Vancouver, 1 from Montreal. So yeah, we had quite the talent. It was great.
Okay. All right, cool. Well, thanks so much, Naddine, and have a great day.
Thank you.